Good evening and welcome to our final session talking about physical health and physical well-being. So if you are joining us live or watching back, you are tuned into hashtag Fire5@Phoenix. So this is our third set of topics. And the format is that I have a guest in every week, and that guest brings with them 5 questions that I have not seen to ask me on the particular subject. So I am joined this evening by the lovely Emma Kennedy from Oak Strength. Emma, welcome. Do you want to tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, what Oak Strength is about?
Yeah, I'm sure several of your clients and viewers already know me, but yes, I am Emma Kennedy. I am Oak Strength, based in Gloucester, up here in Gloucestershire. I have been PTing for 3.5 years. Before that, I was a special needs teacher, so I've reincarnated myself to this version of myself. As I say, 3.5 years been PTing and loving it, expanding the business. Okay, COVID made a little bit of a bump in the road, but it has for everybody. But yeah, I'm 40 years young, 40 years strong, and loving life, really, loving life up here in Gloucester. Yeah, okay, things have changed. Not as many competitions, not as many seminars that we can do at the moment, but I'm sure it will all come back at some point. But yeah, still PTing all my clients to be as strong as possible, stronger together. Awesome. Everything's on my Facebook page and Instagram. I'm fairly good with social media, so there's quite a lot of content in there, and hopefully people find it informative and interesting.
And so we had Kelly on a couple of weeks ago. So Kelly is also part of the Strong Woman community. So we first met, how many years ago would it be? I want to say 2015.
I want to say at least 6 years, because this would have been year 6 for Trojans Strongest.
Wow, okay. So I first met Emma when I first went into the sport of Strong Women. So actually Emma was the person who was introducing us on the open day down at Trojan Gym. So that, yeah, you were kind of my first contact into Strong Women, showing us all the equipment and so welcoming. So I owe a huge amount to you, because I think if that the shape of that day, or how the atmosphere had been on that day, had been any different, I'm not sure where that journey would have gone. So huge kudos to you. And I know you still do the open days, don't you? You still, for anybody who wants to go and have a go or find out a little bit more, still doing open days and still doing strong man, strong woman events type stuff at your gym as well.
I am. I do a Super Saturday every Saturday here at my own unit, which I now have. My own little unit in the middle of Gloucester. I do Super Saturdays 11 till 2. It is obviously needing to be booked, because obviously I have a maximum amount of people I can have in my little unit is 6. So yeah, I still do that. I don't get down to Trojans as often. Unfortunately, I've had to take a second job. So I now can't do Saturdays and Sundays. Love Trojans though. Again, I've got a lot to pass back to Trojans for allowing a woman who back then wasn't, to be fair, even a qualified PT, to run riot in their gym with a group of women that would like to learn how to do strongman. And that was basically it expanded from there, being able to meet up with other women that were possibly interested in lifting heavy. And it went on, it snowballed from there. I qualified as a PT. I've been running my own stuff. I've run competitions. We've run seminars together to do the mind and the body for strong women. But yeah, it's been a crazy journey from those humble beginnings.
Grown as well, isn't it? At those open days, when you think that first open day that I came to, there were what, 4 of us, and now there's been like 20 odd women showing up that are all kind of from different backgrounds, different sports, but all different ages, all who want to just kind of have a little play and see what it's all about. So yeah,
we all want to pull a truck.
Absolutely. I always say, whenever I go out and I talk about my journey, I always say that up until that point, I was like, yeah, this is kind of cool. And then you put the harness on and we pulled the car and I was like, okay, this is fun. This has got me sucked in. So we'll put the details of when you run these events into the link. So for anyone who's watching who wants to give it a go and find out a little bit more, we'll put some details in so that you can find Emma and maybe go and do a little visit and have a little play. So questions. Do you have some questions for me?
I do have some questions for you.
Good.
Right, I'm going to start. Question 1.
Okay.
I am going to say, which, in your opinion, is more important for developing and maintaining physical health, motivation or discipline?
Ooh, discipline.
And why?
Because discipline, you show up even when you don't feel motivated. That's my gut answer. I think people who are disciplined get motivated by the results that show up when they are disciplined, or the results that happen when they are disciplined. So I think motivation kind of goes like that. Life throws things at us, and that can really impact motivation. You know, most of us have really busy lives, competing priorities, and so the discipline of showing up, I think, is key. I think the motivation is almost like the golden thread that runs through it. I think that helps us to show up, but I think discipline is key. I think discipline is what makes you I think motivation is almost outcome based. Motivation is what you're working towards, whereas discipline is very much in the here and now of where you're showing up, how you're showing up in the here and now. And so I think motivation is more kind of forward facing. That's my gut answer.
I would possibly tend to agree with you because, again, okay, I'm a kind of person that goes on motivation. I love motivation. I love pulling trucks. I love doing this. I love doing that. But actually, there are days, weeks, and recently months where motivation has not appeared in my life. And don't get me wrong, I haven't got as much discipline maybe as I should. I don't think many of us do have that consistent level of discipline, or if we do, we tend to be at a high level in whatever exercise or sport or hobby that we have chosen. I think it's the people with that level of discipline that tend to make it through the long haul.
Yeah, I agree. And I think most of us have struggled with motivation because everything has been changing around us. So it's been very hard to kind of pin sort of where you're aiming for because other things have taken priority. So I think motivation has been impacted, but I think discipline is putting things in the diary, showing up at certain times and days, booking into sessions, booking into classes. That for me definitely makes a big difference, especially when you've got other, lots of other things going on. I think discipline is the key.
And especially, I mean, for a lot of particularly in my position being a personal trainer, not just a general for weight loss or cardio, for heavy lifting, it was really hard to keep motivation during lockdown when the gyms were closed. A lot of my clients didn't have access to the kit that they needed, and trying to keep people motivated or even disciplined during that was exceptionally difficult.
Yeah, and I think that's where accountability came in, which is probably the third one that wasn't mentioned. But I think if you've got accountability, or you've got somebody who's holding you accountable, when the discipline wavers or the motivation wavers, that accountability can step in as that external party and help do that for you.
I wouldn't have a business if they didn't need accountability. A lot of my clients now probably have the knowledge, experience, and can go to the gym and train themselves. But actually, at the end of the day, what they want is that little bit of accountability to say, right, what we're doing next. Okay, let's do this. Okay, I've done that. Now what do we do next? So it's actually accountability now with a lot of my clients, because I've got clients that have been with me for 2 or 3 years. They're perfectly capable of maintaining their physical health. Yeah. But they just need that kick up the butt every now and again, or that accountability.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that you probably come in for discipline and motivation as well.
Discipline. I put the cane away when I retired from teaching. But yeah, you know, I've got Atlas stones around that I can lob at people if I need to.
But it's the discipline of showing up, isn't it? Of they've committed, it's their commitment to you and your commitment to them as well, I think is all part of that discipline, isn't it? When you sign up to something, you make that commitment and you then hold yourself accountable for that discipline.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Good first question.
So again, I'm harping back maybe to my teaching days for the next one. What or how do you think we could promote better the importance of physical health to the next generation through education and teaching? Do you think we're doing a good job, or do you think there's a better way we could go about doing that sort of?
Oh, it's tough. I'm not. So obviously my son's a little bit older now, so I'm not kind of in amongst like how important PE is. My understanding is that sport and health has been reduced in the curriculum for both primary and secondary schools, which concerns me, because physical health isn't just about physical health, it's about the mental and emotional health as well. And I think if you want children to be sat in a classroom and focused, you need to give them that outlet to be able to burn off that energy and refresh and be mentally focused when they're sat at their desks. And so I think it's not just about teaching them. I mean, nutrition is a whole different topic again, of how we teach people to fuel themselves in the best possible way for long-term physical health. But I do kind of hear lots about the PE and things all getting shortened, and that's worrying, because it's so important for, you know, the conversation I had with Deb on this last week was, you know, it's that circle, isn't it? That cycle of you work out, you feel better, you eat better, you sleep better, you have more energy, you work out better, and it just keeps going. And we need to show the next generation what that's like and the benefits of that. And if they're not experiencing that, then how do you teach them? So how do you teach them? And it's not just the physical and mental benefits, but it's everything that's included in sport: the teamwork, the communication skills, the leadership skills, all of the things that we learn through sport and through activity coordination and being able to work together as a team without verbally communicating, but how you pull together and how you motivate and encourage, and the discipline of turning up for a sport and all of those things. So I know when my son was growing up, a lot of people said to me, if he's involved in sport, then you've got good chances of getting through his teenage years without too many challenges because of the skills they learn in sport. So I'm very grateful to basketball and martial arts for teaching him some of those skills. But what about those children who aren't getting that? You know, what about those children who aren't learning all of those extra skills? So it's not just about the physical health. It's not just about the mental health, which is the benefit as well, but it's all of those other skills that sport and being active teaches us. You know, the drop-off rate for girls in sport when they hit their teenage years, that concerns me, you know, of how we keep our girls in sport and we keep our girls active. But yeah, it's so important, and it worries me that some of these topics or some of these subjects get dropped off of the curriculum so easily.
It is crazy. It's absolutely ludicrous when you look across the Pacific Rim. If you look at Australasia and how they prioritise sport and physical well-being, either first thing in the morning before they start their day, in between lessons, as well as the team sports, the individual sports. And we just don't seem to have that drive, that community here in the UK. I mean, I'm sure there are schools that are sports specialists. You know, I'm from Bristol, you've got Bath University and that, but that's university level. I'm talking at grassroots level, at primary level. Where are we actually fostering, like you say, even nutrition, about eating healthy? I don't think I did much about nutrition at secondary school. I certainly don't remember it.
No,
Okay, I'm 40, so it was a long time ago, but that's not the point.
Well, I'm the same. I'm the same age as you. I mean, I know we had home economics, didn't we? But that was more about skills in the kitchen. That wasn't necessarily
That was about us
nutrition.
making cakes.
Yeah. Right? And when does the water look like it's boiling? Yeah, the very kind of simple stuff. But you look at some of the challenges that we've got in this country around mental and physical health. It's this, you know, physical activity is a huge preventative. You know, we can try and cure it later on when they're adults, but if those learned behaviors and those learned ways of living are already there, it's so much harder to help. I know, and you know, because we help people to change those habits, change those behaviors, change that lifestyle. But if we can do that when they're children and they learn that from the start, it makes things so much easier. And it's all of that preventative work around them not needing the NHS for obesity related illnesses, heart related illnesses. So yeah, I really agree with you. Yeah, absolutely. And it just, you know, some of the decisions that are being made at the moment don't necessarily protect mental and physical health. You know, and I think we've all got our own opinions on decisions that could be made. But I think there are certain things that, you know, for a lot of people in lockdown, not being able to be physically active in the way that they normally would have been had an impact on mental and physical health. We know that, you know, the statistics are already starting to come through on the impact on both of those areas. And it's only going to get worse the more this happens. So yeah. Every time it comes up, mental and physical health comes up every time, doesn't it? And there's so many things that I feel we could be doing that we don't do. But again, this is why it's important to be represented at that level by the people who make the decisions, isn't it? Of that we can see that people who have the power and control make the decisions to protect the things that are of interest to them. And if that's not health and sport, that's not the decisions that they're going to make. So yeah,
try not to be overly political, but early on in lockdown, when they first started unlocking us, I'm sure I googled Boris in a pub and Boris in a gym. You can imagine the images that came up and the contrast there. But I'll just leave that hanging and move on.
We've teetered on politics there, so now we will step back away. But I think it should be a priority in schools. I think the behaviours, the habits, the education of how we help them to become good, healthy, happy, healthy adults is really important. And yeah, it worries me that it gets reduced all of the time.
Cool. We've kind of answered my next question, I think, already. Okay. Looking at, I've just looked at the next one and gone, I think we've already kind of answered that. Do you feel that we prioritise and use physical health enough in the UK to assist those with mental health issues?
No. This is a very straight answer. I think mental health, mental well-being is a difficult one because you've got the two elements. You've got the mental well-being that we all have, that we all need to look after, and then you've got mental health in terms of mental illness, of what happens when we become unwell through mental health. So I think there's lots of things that we all have our own self-care, our own self-responsibility to look after and maintain our own mental health and well-being. And I think physical health and well-being goes alongside that. And then I think there are certain things, a different way of managing mental illness. So, but again, there's lots of research that shows actual physical activity helps, even for people who are mentally unwell and on medication and with certain diagnoses, that physical activity can also help that recovery process. So I think there's two elements of that. But I think in terms of, if we talk about mental well-being, that we all have that responsibility to look after ourselves, that physical activity, they're joined. I don't think you can separate the two of them. I think one impacts the other. And both are really important. I think certainly when in the Thrive program we have physical activity as a topic, and most people who've gone through the program will all admit, in fact most people who I speak to will all admit, that when life gets really busy we tend to let the physical activity drop off because it's something that we feel we don't have time for. But one of the messages that I keep repeating, and I'm sure you're the same, is actually when everything else is feeling quite chaotic, physical activity and nutrition are the two things that you can keep in your control. They're two elements that you can control. Going for a walk, going to the gym, going for a walk with somebody, of having that time to move, but also to be social with supportive people, should almost be prioritized when life gets a little bit chaotic, because that's when you need it even more. And I know I'm just as I struggle with that challenge just as much. Of, okay, busy week, right, make sure your spin classes are booked in, make sure you've got time to get out in the open air and be able to do that. But it's what most of us do, isn't it? Life gets a little bit chaotic, life throws us a curveball, and the two things that tend to drop off when that happens is how active we are and what we eat. So we tend to eat worse. We don't tend to eat as well, might be a better way of saying it. We tend to move a lot less. We tend to get more lethargic, and then it's more difficult for us to manage what's going on. Whereas actually food and exercise are two things that we could control regardless
whilst
of
everything else is going nuts. Yeah. I'm a prime candidate, I say, and I'm quite honest about it. My nutrition is not where it should be. I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. I like being strong and I like physically pushing my body, but I don't necessarily like having to cook and eat to fuel it. However, I am educated enough to know that if I did get on top of my nutrition, how fantastic my life would actually be. But I always use the excuse, I don't do drugs, I don't smoke, I now don't drink. My only outlet is I eat crap. No, Emma, that's not really the logic, but that's my one thing I give myself is food. But most of it food as a reward or a punishment.
And I think that's I don't think it's it's not necessarily about the choices that you make, it's the relationship that you have with food or drink that is the more of the issue than actually your go-to is the crap food, as in your words, or like the, what would the right way of saying it is, less nutritionally dense, higher calorie food.
Let's just say pizza.
Well, pizza's a good choice, but it's the relationship with food, isn't it? It's the relationship with alcohol, of why you make those choices. And when you know that you make those choices but they're in a healthy balance for you, then that's okay. It's when you're not in control of those choices that it's a different conversation. So we've all got our vices, but also life is for living. So we need that balance of of being able to do that. But it's when it's in balance, isn't it? When it's in balance and it's in control, that it's rather than it controlling us. So
it would be so nice if we could prioritize physical interventions for people rather than, let's be honest, I went to the doctors with depression and obviously their first reaction was to put me on sertraline. Rather than say, and I wasn't gymming back then, they did mention do more exercise and eat better, and but it was kind of, here's the medication, and you could do some exercise and eat. I'm sure doctors these days are far more, I suppose again it depends on the doctor, it depends on the circumstance.
Yeah, it does. And you have the GP referral scheme now, don't you, into certainly into the council gyms. You can get prescribed, so social prescribing, so you can get prescribed gym membership or prescribed food dietary type programs. Again, another conversation, but you can, I would like to think that they are more open to prescribing that. But I know I work with people who are trying to avoid taking that step But medication serves its purpose as well. But a lot of the people that I work with are trying to do both. So they might have been prescribed antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication, but what they want to do is work on that routine and get everything in place. While the medication supports and allows them to do that, they then get everything in place so that they are then in a position to be able to reduce that medication down and then continue that kind of new routine that they know will support those habits. So
cool.
Yeah.
Right. Are you ready? This one's deviating slightly, maybe. So in my opinion, if I had a magic wand, it may defeat the object, because for me, physical exercise and having a target or a goal to work towards, obviously it's effort equals reward for me. Blood, sweat and tears. The more I put into it, the more intrinsic reward there is for me, because I know I had to make X amount of effort to get that thing to happen. But per se, if I had said magical wand and I could wave it at you and it would allow you to do or achieve a sports, a physical or an exercise thing without having to practice it, you could just do it, what would that be?
Oh, that's a good question, because, and I think that's probably where we have, I think why we've always connected, because we have that in common, in that for me, so much of it is the journey of the learning and putting the effort in and showing up and going through that failure and that learning process. That to me is all part and parcel of what that goal is. So that's a really interesting one, because I mean, even with Strongwoman, I didn't walk into the sport and think, right, the goal was to get to a certain competition or get to a certain level. The goal was to see how well I could do and to see if I could improve on what I did the time before. So it was the journey. It wasn't ever about getting to a certain level. That wasn't the goal. So I don't know.
Is there not, a certain sport that you'd love to compete at, or a certain, for me, randomly, it would probably be human flag. I would love to, if someone could wave a magic wand and I could human flag, that would be awesome, because I know probably no matter how hard I work, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, there's definitely some things that I look at and I think, I could probably try and do that a lot and that wouldn't happen. Trying to think of what that would be. I mean, I guess it's every time the Olympics comes round, isn't it? Of you see things and you think, oh, it blows me away every time of what people are capable of doing, and knowing just how much, that 4 years of training and 4 years of showing up for that one event. Oh,
one day, one moment.
To the mentality behind that, and the physical, continuous, sustained physical efforts to be able to do that blows me away. But I'm like, I love the seeing what's possible at the Olympics. I want my gut feeling is that I want to say, can you use your magic wand to get rid of some of the things that put me off stuff, like heights or big drops, things like that? Because I think there's lots of things that I would love to experience, but there's things about it that kind of
barriers
put me off. Like jumping out of an aeroplane. I think that looks awesome, but also no.
No, just absolute fear of God. No. I also don't do heights or looking over. My vertigo, I don't have much.
It's not heights for me. It's the ridge, like, so it's bridges. I really struggle walking over bridges, but I've done rock climbing and abseiling and no issue at all. So
I've done abseiling, but I can't do aluminium see-through stairs where you can actually see through. I'm no good at those either because of the depth perception thing.
Yeah, I think it's something to do with like ledges and bridges for me. It's I've done rock climbing and abseiling and absolutely loved it. So yeah, nothing's coming to mind. But if I could use your magic wand to kind of take away some of the off-putting things around sport, that would be quite good. I'd actually love to run really quickly, but gracefully.
Yeah, they're two different things, fast and graceful, let's be honest.
Yeah, I'd like a more gazelle-like rather than running rhino.
Yeah, I feel like I sound like an elephant, especially when I used to run at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I just think I'm going to be waking everybody up with this.
Yeah, you're heavy-footed when you can see people further down the road moving out the way and anticipating.
Down when you're 100 yards away, yeah. That.
Yeah. So yeah. I don't know that there's. It's weird, isn't it? Nothing came to mind. Yeah, some of the human flag is very impressive. Gymnastics, that always looks very impressive. The tumble,
nice crucifix hold on a ring.
Yeah,
that's
again,
crazy.
it's grace. Can I use your magic wand to have some grace and elegance?
Yes, okay.
Then, please. Absolutely. And then I can apply that to all future sports. Yeah, that'd be good.
Cool. Yeah. See, again, I'd like to hold a handstand, and that is doable, but I have not got the dedication to put the time in for that.
See, handstands and headstands, I've never been too bad at.
Headstand, I can do headstand. Handstand, cannot hold a handstand. Cannot hold it. Tried, even went for lessons last year.
When you hit the floor, so I'd like to come out of that a bit more gracefully.
Well, yeah. And for me, it's also because it's an opposite body shape to weightlifting. Whereas weightlifting, you're pushing your belly out and getting your lower back curve and your shoulders. And a handstand is actually almost the opposite. And it felt totally alien. Totally alien. Anyway, that's digressing. Yes, what else have I got here? Oh, in exercise terms, or in sport, so swimming, weightlifting, running, whatever your chosen physical health and exercise would be, do you feel that it's always better to do something over nothing, or should there be an element of technique and proper teaching as a priority?
So should people learn technique first, or do you?
Is it better to just have a go? Is something better than nothing, or is it better to go in educated and?
So I think it does very much depend on the sport, because I think again that risk of looking after yourself and risk of injury. I think there's always a benefit to having a teacher or an instructor, without doubt. But I think having a go is also really important, and taking that first step. And that was one of something that Deb was asking last week about, that taking that first step of going and trying something new is what quite often holds a lot of people back from that going in and giving it a go, or that fear of not knowing and being around lots of people who are already very good at it. So I think there's go in and give it a go, and there's so much out there to choose from, isn't there? So I think there's lots of benefits to go and trying different sports or trying different activities. And then I think when you found the one that captures your interest and the one that you feel you would really like to give a go, then it's probably then worth looking at getting some support. And I think it depends what the sport is, because not every sport would need an instructor or but there will always be somebody there that you can ask and get some advice from. So I think there's always, again, it's that confidence, isn't it, of asking for help or asking for advice. I would say that most sports, certainly any sport that I've come into contact with, people like to be able to support and people like to be able to help. So go and give it a go, and don't be afraid to ask for advice. And then, dependent on the type of sport and how seriously you want to take it and how good you want to get at it, look for getting that support, sort of more structured support in place as well. So I think, you can have a PT and still turn up and do things for fun, and still turn up with different goals in mind. So, you know, it doesn't mean that you are taking it seriously and you want to compete. It's just about getting the best for you, but also looking after yourself through that. But I think giving it a go is the first, getting that step through the door and giving it a go. And then there's always people there that will help and give you support, and then make sure you ask the right people, the instructed people, for the right advice.
Because it was, again, it's another one of those things where people go out running and that's fine. But if you're going to suddenly run a marathon, make sure you're wearing the right shoes, you've got the right gait, you're not doing yourself damage. You know, I was thinking along those lines of, you know, yeah, go out for a jog. But if you want to run a marathon, okay, same, go to the gym, use the weights. But then everyone was a novice at some point. This is what I keep harping back to with all of my clients, with anyone who comes to have a go. I do a free hour and people go, oh, but that puts people off because you're giving it away for free and all this. No, what I do is I do a free trial to see if people would like to lift weights, if it is something that motivates them, that if it is something that interests them. If it isn't, we've both wasted 1 hour of our time and no money. Therefore, we've not really wasted anything.
Well, and you haven't wasted it because you've answered the question of, is this for me? So
you can say, you can never go, I wonder if.
Yeah. So
I think that wonder if.
First step is getting through the door and giving it a go. Second step, or next step, is what do you want from it, and who is best to help you to get there?
Because everyone was a novice. Nobody ran a marathon day one. Nobody lifted 100 kilos over their heads day one. No one did that. No one. Even if you're the elite of the elite right now, at one point.
And we all had help to get there. So even if you are looking at going and asking somebody who appears to know what they're doing and be really good at what they're doing, they've probably still have help, and they would have had help to where they get to have got where they've got to. So they're always willing, you know, there's very few people who are not willing to help. Was that question 4?
I've got a feeling that was 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that was question 5.
Was it? The reason why I ask is that there's a question in the chat, which I know we've talked around, but Julie has asked in the chat that saying that she's suffering with depression and body image. Would she benefit from joining the gym? Hi, Julie. Thank you for joining us. So I think we've talked around some of it in terms of the benefits of mental and physical health, emotional health, body image, and you mentioned your own experience with depression, and you said, so I know this, you don't have to answer from a personal perspective, but just in terms of that conversation to help Julie out, I think that being active and especially if you're being active in a group of people, can really help with depression. Certainly from my own experience with body image, the weight training for me was quite a significant turning point for me, because I went from working out and being active to be a certain size and look a certain way and to lose weight. When I went into strength training, I found that my relationship with my body very much changed as a result, because it became about what my body was capable of and what my body could do rather than what it looked like. And so even just weighing myself differently. So up until strength training, I would always weigh myself in stones and pounds. And then when I started weight training, I started weighing myself in kilos so that I could start to compare how much I was lifting and what percentage of my body weight it was. And so then it just completely changed the dynamic for me. I started to eat to be able to lift more. I started to eat to be able to train better. I would eat in a way that supported my training rather than eating out of habit or out of, it just changed so much for me. So Julie, I would definitely say yes, physical activity can help with both of those things, and certain sports and certain sports circles would also help with that for sure. Is there anything, Emma, you wanted to add on to that?
We know how I feel about body image. Personally, I can't say I've been a body transformation. I've never been big to small, small to big. But I never had confidence. I was a very, very shy. My anxiety levels were ridiculous. They're still bad at times, but at least now I know my physical body is strong. Therefore, my mind is stronger. It has opened up absolute worlds for me 7-8 years ago, even when I was in the midst of being a teacher, looking after special needs children with a team of 4 teaching assistants every day in a stressful environment. I still had no confidence in myself, and it was only running didn't help me. It helped me clear my mind, and be able to continue functioning, but it didn't have that mental health, that real relationship of loving myself and okay, literally every day I'm like, how strong can my body get? Okay, the passion has waned a bit recently. There's no comps, there's no groups, I'm a bit lost, but I'm still wanting to know how far my body can get. How far can I push this 5'2" He's coordinated. My PE teachers didn't even know my name. I should have been in set 3, bottom set, because I was that clumsy and discoordinated and hated PE so much. My PE teachers would not know that this is my life now. Bless them. But yeah, and again, I have clients from the age of late 20s through to 72, male and female, from a size 6 to a size 24, and it doesn't bloody matter what size, shape, experience, job, lifestyle or personality you have. In the gym, the weights don't care. They don't care if you're happy or sad, fat or thin, feel that you're overweight or feel that you're not got enough muscle to be able to cope. It doesn't care. You can either lift it or you can't. You can either join in and do that class or you can't, because again, I have recently started, literally in the last week or so, my Fit Blast classes again, which are strength and conditioning based, but they can be accessed by anyone. Any age, any ability.
But I think for me as well, the confidence in the gym or the confidence in developing in a physical activity transfers over. So for me, it was like, if I could battle through that mindset in the gym, then I could battle through in a work meeting. If I could push through out of that comfort zone in that area, then I could do that in other area. And I found that I can mentality of, you just need to take a deep breath and give it a go. When you do it in the gym, because that's what happens, but you start to do that elsewhere as well, and you start to realize that actually, if you can push through and get, it's one of my favorite expressions, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, that applies very much for strength training, but it also applies in life. And when you get used to that feeling of, oh, okay, not done this before, what's happening here? If you do that in the gym, but you also learn what that feels like, so it doesn't feel out of place when you start to do it in your personal life as well. So I think there's huge benefits. I think another benefit of strength training is that you don't have to be a certain size or a certain level of fitness to be able to start lifting. And the benefits for obviously you build lean muscle mass, it impacts your metabolism, so you burn burn your calories a lot quicker. There's a huge amount of benefits. Again, it's probably another hour's conversation, but Julie, I think the short answer to your question is yes. But tune back into the beginning of the conversation, because we did talk about certainly mental, physical health and how that goes together. But the short answer to your question is yes. Find something that you enjoy, find something that you want to show up to, something that you can be disciplined, but something that motivates you, which we talked about at the beginning.
only a small ad, is that a lot of people are concerned that if they go to a gym, all the big muscly people that know what they're doing are going to be looking at you. No, they're looking at themselves. Okay, anyone who's serious about gym is so intent on getting that set or that rep or that next lot done. We don't care what you lot are doing outside of our bubble, because we are, gym people tend to be quite solitary. We can do group stuff, but we like to do our own sets. We're not, people aren't, very rarely in a gym are they judging you.
Any funny faces are faces made by lifting that you can't avoid, or they're concentrating, frowning faces because we're trying to keep count. That's all it is. It's not.
Don't go past 8 reps.
This is not being approachable or not being friendly. This is purely as like, have I done 8 or have I done 10? Did I do 5 or did I do 6? Because I just need this set to be over, or just certain lifts that make you make funny faces. So it's
we love a deadlift face.
Oh God, the photos over the years of some of us. Yeah. The less said about that, the better.
We'll leave that there.
Yeah, what a great note to end on. Thank you so much.
That's okay.
Great questions, as always.
Can I add my really quick bonus one in? I promise it'll be really fast.
Because we have time.
Strong Woman is obviously where we met, and what we had in common from the beginning, as you said at the beginning. So I need to ask you, I expect it's been asked before, possibly been asked before, what was your personal greatest moment through your Strong Woman career? The pinnacle. Or the greatest event, or the greatest lift, just the one thing that you think that really was the greatest thing about my Strong Woman.
I think so. In terms of like I know I talked about Brits because my son was there and getting second place, and that was definitely like the highlight in general. But I think the kind of the bit of like, I did it, was probably the car deadlift at Europe's, because initially when we started training for that event, I couldn't get the tire off the floor, let alone the car. And so it was a combination of weeks and weeks of effort, but also technique, trying to find that right technique to be able to do it. And then getting to Europe's, it was the first event. So nervous, and then I think it was 23 reps I smashed out on that car, and they stuck a flipping beer barrel in the back of it because they didn't think it was heavy enough. So I think that in terms of the event, just because of the mental and physical journey I had to go on to make that happen, and then again, the video, obviously that was part of the thing that was filmed by Red Bull, but also whenever I watch that back, I can hear my son and then the Bristol Strongest guys kind of cheering on in the background, and a complete stranger, a lady in a big floppy hat. I don't know who she is, but she was my biggest cheerleader on the day. No idea who she was or why she was there.
And that happens in Strongman.
Yeah, I think that was the best thing about it, and to do that in front of Han Bingle and Magnus V. Magnuson, to just do that in front of those two people and kind of smash out those reps, and it all went a bit downhill after that. It wasn't my best competition, but that will definitely be a top memory, I think, of.
And it always looks cool lifting a car though, right?
Yeah, it makes some great, if you can get the right angle so that you don't get the facial expressions, they do make a great picture. But I think, yeah, that was definitely the kind of the standout for me. And there was lots of things I learned. Pulling the monster trunk was good fun. But yeah, there's so much, isn't there? That's the great thing about that sport, is that it's so varied, and the fact that
you can't get bored and can't perfect anything because there's too much.
No, which is why it was perfect for me, because you were always learning something new. So you didn't get that, boredom or fatigue of doing the same training and the same lifts. It was always something different. So yeah, I loved it. So yeah, car deadlift.
Awesome.
Great question to end on. Thank you so much for your time. We will put your, or I will put your link in. So you were tagged in, your Facebook page was tagged into this post anyway, so people can find you now, but I will put your details into the comments so people watching back can find them. And then we'll repost this, we'll share it on Instagram TV, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn. We will spread the message far and wide. But if you're watching back, feel free to ask questions. I will come back in, check for them and answer. And if it's anything I can't answer, it's a question for Emma, we will tag her in. But thank you very much, Emma. Thank you so much for your time and fantastic questions. We will be back. So for next month, we will be talking about rest and sleep. So important of taking that downtime and sleeping well. So that will be the subject for next month. So we will be back with more. But thank you very much. Thank you, Emma.
You're welcome.
See you all very soon.
Bye.